in our experience, we've gathered 5 common mistakes that people make when they're just getting started. And the first mistake that we see most often is unrealistic expectations. So when people are, not knowing that they have a product that's at a certain price point. Let's say you're selling a lunch special, and that lunch special has a very low price point. But we see customers come out and say, this is the best lunch you'll ever eat. Well, it's not the best lunch you'll ever eat. It's the best lunch at that price point. And so when people realize that their product, where it stacks up in the whole marketplace, and if it stacks up in the middle or stacks up near the top, most often we see people make the mistake of thinking everybody's going to rush in the door when they say, we have our lunch special at this price point. And when no one comes rushing in the door, they figure the advertising must not be working. And so they don't have a realistic expectation of their product or message or service in the marketplace. That's the number one thing. The second common mistake that we see people make is having an inaccurate customer profile or customer segment. And Jane mentioned it very clearly. You've got to know who your customers are. Okay, when you don't know what their demographics are, then you're going to not create a good message or good promotions for them. For example, if you are millennial and your customers are an older set and they don't use social media as much, you might ask them, what kind of music do they listen to, and what are their favorite news stations or news sources? What are their favorite programs? And so querying your audience is, and it takes time to do this, but if you're just getting started, you can have conversations with people and find out where it is that they get their information. And it might not be the same place you get your information. And that should be a big clue as to where you need to place your advertising. Okay, so having an inaccurate customer profile is the second biggest mistake that we see. The third biggest mistake is not knowing what it costs you to advertise and not knowing what you get in return. So you'll know that you pay so much to have something printed, let's say, and you go out into a street corner and hand these out, or you buy a radio commercial, or you print posters, or whatever it is. You need to know how many people you need to have come in your door, on your website, or call your phone in order to retain some of those as sales to pay for that advertising. So if you pay $500 for a billboard and you have 100 people call you, and out of the 100 people you make a sale on 20 of those people, well, whatever it is that you're selling had to have paid for that $500 or exceed that $500. And many new startups don't go through the effort of measuring what they get from the advertising for what they invest in it. Okay, and we call that not knowing your ad return on your investment, or ROI. The fourth one is not controlling your identity. We already talked about this, making sure that your logo is consistent, that your business cards are consistent, and making sure that the person who made your shirts makes your logo look the same as the person who made your business cards, or the nephew that you get to help you design your online presentation. Those all have to be the same, because many times, and we see this mistake all the time, I got my nephew to do my website, and those branding elements are not consistent. And I know it's cheap, but you can demand that everything look consistent and good quality. And then the fifth and final mistake that we see most often is overestimating your time. Someone says, I know how to do Facebook. I can get in and manage a Facebook campaign. And while you might have the ability to manage it, you have other pressing needs in your business that you need to focus on. You need to focus on product development and delivery and customer service. You need to focus on making sure that your staff represents your product as well as you do. And before you know it, all your day's gone. We all in the whole across the globe have about 24 hours, each of us, and no more, no less. When you know that you have a light bulb has to go off and say, I do not have the time to do this properly. So, you're going to have to not overestimate your time, budget it, and learn how to allocate that to people. Now, Facebook might be an area where your nephew might be able to do a better job than you will.